Music and storytelling go hand in hand. They have throughout history. And today you're going to have the opportunity to meet someone who is bringing that history back to life creatively. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. My name is Steve, and this is the show where we come together each week around our virtual coffee table to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. And I know you're really going to enjoy our guest today. They're someone who is really has a passion for the creativity that they bring, and that's it's very special. Before we get to that, I want to see who's here, see how you're doing. If you are joining us, please do say hello in the chat. Let us know that you are here. And when we get to our conversation with our guest, please do participate in that as well. All right, listen, I'm going to keep things moving along because we do have a lot to talk about today. So I want to make sure that we get to our guest, which means, hey, hello, the Bard is here. And you're going to find out the Bard is actually joining us from the other side of the world, basically, right now. But it's good to have you here. And if you also joining us today, please do make sure that you say hello in the comments. You can do that whether you are speaking with us on Facebook or YouTube Live. And if you're tuning in later on and watching this as a recorded episode, you can still make your comments in the chat. I want to get to our sweet and savory today. There's several things that I want to share with you and talk about a little bit. This last week, we had an opportunity, Carol and I had an opportunity to take Remy and Jameson, our two oldest grandsons, who are visiting us. They're in the kind of coming down to the final few days of their summer visit with us. Hi, Kathy. Hello, Jerry. Good to have you here. And one of the things that Carol and I've talked about for the last couple of years is that we know that those boys have been to the California coast. They live in California. They have family who live near the California coast. They've never been to the Oregon coast. We had an opportunity to take them to Cannon Beach, Oregon, which is one of our favorite coastal cities to go to, coastal towns to go to. And we had Carol had found this lovely inn one end of Cannon Beach called the Inn at Cannon Beach. But it was very comfortable, very lovely place. It was sort of not cabins because there were several rooms per building, but they were kind of gathered around courtyard areas where you could go out. There was a pond that was full of frogs, which you could definitely hear at night. And each afternoon in one of the courtyard areas near the lobby, hi, Dee Dee, they would prepare and serve root beer floats. And the weather was very mild, so we had gotten our root beer floats and we were sitting out there. And near in the courtyard where we were sitting, there were a few bird feeders. And Jameson noticed that there was around one bird feeder that was near the place where they were serving the sundaes. There was one little like sparrow. I'm going to say it was a sparrow. That's what Jameson thought it was, a house sparrow, that was not necessarily scrambling off and flying away when people would walk near it. And it was the only one doing that. And my first thought was, well, is it injured or something? No, it would go up to the bird feeder, it would get food, it would fly back down. It was acting very normal, other than the fact it didn't seem alarmed by any of the people. So Jameson decided to see how close he could get. So he was kind of coaxing. And at one point, he put some bird seed that had fallen to the ground on his hand. The sparrow eventually came over and actually took seed out of his hand. And then I want to show you what happened a few minutes later as we were watching and just kind of keeping an eye on what was going on with Jameson. Take a look at this. Carol.
doing?
Wow, good job, Jay.
You're like Cinderella.
Cinderella. We're going to call you Cinderella. Sing.
No, shut up.
Here you go, Carol.
Oh, come here. Come here. Hi. What you doing? What you doing? Oh, hi.
Still.
Don't
do nothing, Jay. Jay, don't do nothing.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Jay, don't move.
Careful what you wish for.
Hey, and the good thing is when they fly, they take off, they always spook before they leave.
And just feel the little feet. The little feet. This is not what I was planning.
It was not what you were planning.
I was just hoping it would be on my arm. Is the bird in my hoodie?
There's a bird, yeah.
Is the bird in my hoodie? I can't move. I don't.
Yeah. The bird subsequently ended up going to each one of us. And eventually, I think Jameson, one of us walked over to the table with it, and it just sat on the table and hopped across and went from one person to another. I mean, our assumption is at some point it had to have been more around people. It was the only one of the birds in the area that was doing that. And it came back a couple of times over the course of that day when we were outside. So yeah, definitely was a special situation. I think Chelan dubbed Jameson as a as a Disney princess, which he didn't necessarily appreciate, but we know that in the Disney cartoons, the animals always flock to the princesses. So he's a Disney prince, we'll say that. But anyway, it was an unusual and special moment. And we have several birthdays today that I want to mention. The first one is actually today. Amy Machado is celebrating a birthday. So happy birthday, Amy. I know that she and Christopher are taking time to celebrate today in California. And Chelan is celebrating a birthday this week in a few days. July 14th is Chelan's birthday. It's a landmark birthday. It's a special birthday. I'm not going to give an age because I don't do that. Chelan, but somebody else can rat Chelan out if they want to. And then Jason Wheelock. Jason is celebrating a birthday this coming week as well on the 16th. So happy birthday to Jason. A couple of anniversaries this week as well. And one of them is ours. Carol and I are celebrating our anniversary tomorrow, 46 years together. Yes, that picture is from our wedding. And yes, that was the style back then. We don't need to, I mean, Carol looks beautiful. That's an ageless, timeless look. Mine is definitely 1980, but we'll leave it at that. Another anniversary this week. Not only is Chelan celebrating a birthday, but she and Dustin celebrating 15 years on the 16th this coming week. So happy anniversary to the two of them as well. Do you have a special day this week that I didn't get on our calendar, that we didn't get? I'll blame all of us, the production team, that we didn't get on our calendar. You can let us know that in the chat right now. And if you have a special day coming up, perhaps it's later in the month of July, perhaps it's later this year, and you just want to make sure we have it on the list so that in the right week, the proper week, we can celebrate that and acknowledge it with you, please send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. You can also go ahead and stick it in the chat. It's just I make sure I see it if it's in the email, though. That's going to be the best way to do it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's a cool week. We still have a lot going on. It's been a busy last few weeks because we've had family in town. We still have a handful of things that we want to do this week while Remy and Jameson are still here, have family coming back into town to do a few things with us. But we have had a great time. We always create adventures and try to create adventures when we have family here, especially the grandkids. And we also do a lot of ice cream eating, go out to ice cream, because all great adventures in our family end with ice cream. And I want to just tell you briefly about our guest today, and they are here. The Bard. Our guest today is known as the Bard, a musician, storyteller, and performer who is reviving ancient arts of mythology through music. After rediscovering a lifelong calling, they traded the piano for ancient Greek lyre, bringing Nordic legends and timeless stories to life for audiences ranging from intimate gatherings to concert stages. And now, please join me in welcoming our special guest, the Bard. Well, we are thrilled today to have the Bard with us from Portland. And I just want to say welcome. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be on your show, Steve. It was great to meet you up in Spokane and great to connect like that.
Well, I always trying to get the beginnings of journeys, and I wonder if you could just share a little bit about what first drew you toward ancient music, mythology, storytelling, and how that journey eventually led to you becoming a modern day bard.
Yeah. I always had a really deep love of fantasy and mythology, and I had a really unique childhood. I was homeschooled for most of it. So for me, that meant I spent a lot of time alone, and I spent a lot of time at the library and down by the river reading my books. And, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, those were some pretty instrumental writers for me that helped me to start being able to visualize these worlds that they created. And concurrently, I began to become interested in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and to a lesser degree, Finnish and Norse mythology too. So, that kind of built a foundation for me that stayed in childhood for a long time until, in recent years, as I have began to, leave. I left my corporate job about 5 years ago, and I wanted to get back in touch with that really wild part of myself, because I knew that place of childlike wonder was where I could understand what my creative calling was. And that was a calling I felt ever since I was a young child. I discovered in this process that I wasn't only a singer, I wasn't only an instrumentalist, I wasn't only a poet, and I wasn't only a writer, and I wasn't only a theatrical performer. I was all of it, all at one time. And that's what a bard is in the ancient sense. We do it all in a completely immersive experience.
Underneath your name is a title that says Founder, the Bardic Arts Revival. And I'm curious about what that means and what inspired you to become the founder of the Bardic Arts Revival.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this came about because as I started to do this work of mythology, I started to find a platform and support within the Portland Nordic community, particularly through the organization known as Nordic Northwest. I began to discover that no one had language for this sort of performance art anymore. I'd say, I'm a bard, and people would say, oh, like Shakespeare? And that's a really understandable question, because the idea of what an ancient bard is has been, I believe, actually was actively repressed a long time ago by the church, because what the bards did is we were people who brought together communities. We helped people remember who we were as a culture. We helped ourselves to remember where we came from, what we believed in, what our ethos was. And those sorts of people were not the ones who would help to get people to conform to a new agenda. And so, when the priests came to Norway or wherever, they started to convert, to change the stories, to do as much as they could to, migrate the old pagan celebrations into Christian festivals and religious holidays, right? So there was this whole movement that happened. And so culturally, we've forgotten what being a bard means. So I thought, well, I'm going to name it. I'm going to name the genre that I'm both reinventing and rediscovering at the same time. And that's what I've called it, is Bardic Arts Revival, because part of my spiritual calling in this work, and it is a spiritual calling, is, well, I was given the idea of a lighted torch in the darkness. and I'm holding the torch, right? I'm a person who's holding the torch of what it is to be a bard. And there are other bards out there who don't know that they're bards, but they have the ability to bring these stories to life in their own way, from their own cultures, from their own stories on stage in a multidisciplinary performance. And when they see it, they'll know, and they'll say, that's me. I can do that. I can do it better, or I can do it in this way, you know. And so that the Bardic Arts Revival is both a genre and a movement.
You know, when we're talking about mythology, Nordic mythology, etc., I think many people, because of television and movies, they picture Thor and Loki, you know, what they've seen on screen. What do you see as some of the misconceptions about this mythology, and what would you like people to understand about the real stories?
One of the things that's coming to mind for me is, because of the way that Christianity took over as much of the mythology as it could, and inserted itself into the broader consciousness as a more dominant spirituality. And I do want to take a moment to say I have many friends who are wonderful Christian people, and in no way am I denigrating their very real spiritual connection to their belief systems, and that it can't be a wonderful thing for them too. So I just I want to say that first. But as far as the dominating, cruel approaches that were taken in the old days against those who were different, that's kind of the vein of Christianity that I speak of. But part of the ways in which they changed mythology was to go into a binary of good versus evil. And that can really, you know, if you look at Hollywood and kind of how they portray some of the mythology, there can be a good versus evil thing, that a trope that goes on. But when you read the ancient stories, it's not that simple. It's much more about chaos versus order. And this actually goes both for Norse mythology, and then I don't know Finnish mythology as well, but I'm learning, and it seems like there are some similar themes there. And you can see where there are differences between one story to the next, where you can start to pick out where the Christian themes modified the stories. So, you know, Loki isn't just evil. Loki isn't evil. What Loki is he is a balancing pendulum. Is that when the balance goes from too far from one side to the next, Loki flows in there. He's like water, and he rebalances that pendulum back to center again. But it's very uncomfortable. It's you know, he's a trickster figure, and you see that trickster figure played out, such as Coyote in the Native American stories, for example. And there are many trickster figures.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Loki's one of my favorites. And I actually wrote a little poem about him. I shouldn't say a little poem. I wrote a poem about him, if you would like to hear it.
I would love to hear it. I think we would all love to hear it.
Right. It's called The Lay of Loki. Loki, clever-like, sets his snares. Perfidious and petty, the folly of the gods, his to reveal. For days on days he sets his schemes and settles into wait. With wit unmatched and cruelty keen, too slippery to take. The gods grow nervous, and rightly so, when Loki comes around. With endless tricks and sneakery, his madness knows no bounds. Sneaky is as sneaky does, and does he ever do it? Thor, his favorite target and tool for ultimate satisfaction. Brutal, bitter, clever being, he giveth to the gods a sting. When they get too proud, when they get too loud, balance he the pendulum swing.
Ooh, that's good. Is that a standalone poem? Is that one that you have put to music?
That poem was a part of my first ever mythological performance titled The Humbling of Thor, which is a one-person original show. I do weave together ancient stories along with my own original storyline, and then my own poetry and music as well. Though I do quote some of the ancient poems as well in there. So yeah, that one is original, and it was originally part of that show.
When we talk about music, you play the Greek lyre.
Yes.
And that is not an instrument that probably most people encounter on a regular basis. What attracted you to it? What makes it unique compared to modern instruments?
Yeah. So the Greek lyre, well, it was funny. I originally wrote The Humbling of Thor for voice and grand piano, which was the only instrument at the time that I would have been willing to play in front of an audience. And then I realized quickly after releasing that performance that I was going to be really limited as far as what kind of experiences I could give my audiences, because it's not easy to find a stage with a grand piano. That's just not always accessible for a performer. So I thought, okay, I'd like to get a more mobile instrument. And so initially I thought the lute, but when the sale of a lute that I had been planning to buy fell through, I thought about it again. I thought, you know what? It's basically like playing the guitar. And you know what? I never liked playing the guitar. Why am I doing this to myself? So, and it was wild. Instagram, and I will tell you, I think it was the gods who put it there. I don't know how else it could have happened, but I was on Instagram, and this, the Luthieros brand came up, and Luthieros are Greek luthiers literally in Greece, and they have reconstructed these beautiful ancient instruments based on Greek pottery that's been excavated. And I spent some time researching the company, seeing who was playing their instruments, and I was like, wow, this is a real deal. And it worked out that I was able to purchase one and ship it over here. And I have been just blown away by this instrument. Wow. I've never heard a storytelling instrument of its kind. It has the ability to whisper and the ability to just reach right into your soul. It's nuts. Wow. It has a real spirit, that instrument does. Yeah.
And we're going to take some time here to share with the audience a little bit of your music with the lyre. So we'll take just a little breakaway and give people a little taste of that, and we'll be back in a minute.
Thanks.
Throughout history, you were talking about the storytelling aspect, and music and storytelling very often go hand in hand. And curious from your perspective, what makes music such a powerful vehicle for preserving and for sharing stories?
What a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is that music is a vehicle for memory like none other. I mean, how many of us have had the experience of hearing a childhood lullaby or song, or, a song that we heard in our teens, and it suddenly brings us back right to the scene where we first heard it, right? And we go, oh my God, I forgot about the song, or I forgot about that moment in time or that person I was with, right? And it has this power to evoke within us. And music is a language unto itself. It is not the words that make music, it is music itself. This is something I found really interesting. There's a physicist around the turn of the century named Alfred Whitehead, I believe his name was. And he had this concept called eternal objects. And eternal objects were things that exist but are not perceptible until they're utilized. And so, for example, musical notes are a great example of this. You and I are sitting here talking, we can't perceive the presence of music, but as soon as I sing, ah, it's there, right? Here's the
Right.
music. The music is with us. Those musical notes exist whether or not I sing them, or etc. So when we activate these eternal objects, these core fundamentals of reality which always exist, it's as fundamental as DNA.
Mm.
It's as fundamental as DNA. And something I like to say is that mythology lives in our bones. Mythology is our DNA, because, well, in some spiritual traditions they say that the archetypes that are revealed within mythology come from the earth itself, which is why so many different traditions around the world have so many similarities. It's like, how did the Akkadians and I'm just pulling names out of the hat here, and then the Mayans, right? How do we, across the vast expanse of an ocean, have so many similar figures in our mythologies? It doesn't make any sense until you go back to what is the one thing that we have in common. It's the earth we stand on. And these, and the ancient bards, they were mystics. They went into another space, and they just like Albert Einstein, right? Any of the great geniuses of time will say, I went and I got my ideas from out there and I brought them here. And the bards did the exact same thing. And so the music was a big part of that. When you look at music, for example, from Kalevala, which is the Finnish national epic, it's their collection of mythology stories, which were derived from ancient folk songs called the runolaulu in the eastern side of the country. And these are compiled into songs, but they have been passed down for thousands of years. Like the memory that is associated with songs, it makes it an ideal vehicle to carry down lore and knowledge. Like I was telling a friend today, I'm going to go to Finland, right? And I'm going to be studying these ancient folk songs, the runolaulu, which I'm very excited about. And they said, well, maybe you'll be doing some performances in Finland. And I said, I have so much respect for this, and I am a little bit nervous performing Finnish material for Finnish people. And the reason is because Finland was occupied a couple of times by the Russians and then by Sweden. And so they have had to preserve their culture meticulously. So pronunciations, I mean, you pronounce something wrong in front of a Finnish person, even a little bit, they'll tell you, and they'll say, nope, that's not how you pronounce that, or that's not how your accent's on the wrong syllable. And they're very exacting in the standards of how their culture needs to be preserved. And that helped to teach me why it is that, in another illustration, why Native American peoples need to be so careful about how culture is preserved. So yeah, the songs are a really big part of that.
You talked a little bit about seeing the response from people, and I wondered what you have observed about people who are drawn to the kind of music and the kind of poetry that you share and that storytelling. What do you find when you observe in the room, or when they come up and talk to you afterwards? What connections are they seeking?
Yeah, that's such a good question. This is one of the revelations that I received, actually, was that I wouldn't have expected this. I didn't know what to expect. I had no expectations. But the demographic who by and large has been the most gripped by the work. Now children and teens also, and young adults, also them, but I have done less work with youth than I have adults at this time. So that's also a thing. But it has been elder women. Elder women are the ones who go, why is no one doing this? What? And they're just so gripped by the work, and they're gripped by the lore and the stories, and it was astonishing to me how many people were obviously so moved by it within the specific demographic. And so that also sent me on an investigative journey as well. And a theory that I have is that older women, we we were the lore keepers of the family.
Hmm.
And you think about your grandmother, right? I have a grandmother who's a gifted storyteller who's done an incredible amount of research into her side of the family, and getting to know as many stories as she can, etc. She's really done a remarkable amount of work, and she's a really remarkable woman in many ways. And she was always the one who told the stories. She was the one who kept the stories alive. And I believe that that is a cultural role that was largely wrested from the grip of older women, through, especially when it came to the witch burnings, and the witch burnings and witch trials, because it would have been women who had lore, had knowledge, who would have been called witches, because that's power. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And that was all about removing women's power. And I think that, and then it became unsafe. So certainly there's still people who knew some things and shared it quietly and in secret, but it largely disappeared from the public awareness, I think. And it hasn't come back.
As we are getting ready a little bit here, what are some of the projects or adventures that are next for you?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a whole new friendship. I'm just peeking through the crack of the door right now. And I first just want to say I have been gifted the support and wisdom of so many wise people who have just cared about me as a person and who didn't want anything in return, but people in the music industry, people who are spiritual. There were just so many people who've helped me along the way, and also the Nordic community in Portland, especially the Finnish community, but really just largely and Nordic Northwest too. They've given me a platform and support to be able to launch. My first ever professional performance was to 150 people. Like,
Wow.
that's the first ever thing I ever did professionally. So,
Yeah.
I just really want to just express my deep gratitude, because no artist stands alone, and that's something I like to say a lot, and I think it's important to say.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm traveling to Finland for the entire month of July. I'll be studying the runolaulu, the rune songs or poem songs from Finnish Karelia, the eastern region of the country. And I'll be learning more about the poetic meter that Kalevala was written in as well. It's very specific, and it's pretty incredible, and also complicated. So I'll be studying that in my personal time. I'm also writing a new theatrical production, which has yet to be named, but it's another one-person bardic performance. And it's set within Finnish mythology, although I will be pulling an element of Russian and Welsh mythology into it as well. But that performance will be premiering at Nordic Northwest around the end of March in 2027 for World Kalevala Day. I'm excited about that. And then I have a full-length concert experience that I'll be sharing on September 11th at Nordic Northwest as well when I come back. And that show is titled The Bard Return from Northland. So I'll be sharing some stories from my travels in Finland, what I learned. I'll be sharing new music that I'll have written there. I'll be playing the kantele, which is the Finnish national instrument. It's an ancient instrument that's named in the mythology, just like the Greek lyre is named within Greek mythology.
Mhm.
And I just don't feel right about playing an instrument like that until I go to the country and get to play it there.
Wow.
So I had a local luthier master craftsman helped me create a travel size kantele. So I'll be getting
Wow.
to play that out in nature and spend time with it as I write the music and write the story. Yeah, just getting to know the community. Finland is known as known as the happiest country on earth. So I'd
Mhm.
like to know some of their secrets, whatever they are willing to share with me.
Yeah.
And I'll be sharing that at the show as well. So,
And we should
yeah.
mention that what people are experiencing right now and hearing some of your stories. Part one, we're planning a part two that is either going to be taking place while you're in Finland or when you come back, sharing some of those experiences with us as well. So we're looking forward to that. One more question here that I'm going to throw out to you. If you could sit down over a cup of coffee with one bard, one storyteller, one historical figure, or even a mythological character from the past, who would it be, and what would you most want to ask them?
It would be the great Finnish singer Väinämöinen, who is, it's a little tricky. The Finnish mythology doesn't exactly call him a god, but he has a role in creation. He is an ancient being, and his power comes from knowing the true origin of things, like the origin of iron, the origin of earth, right? These different elements. And then he gains mastery over them by his ability to sing about it. So he is, to me, just the primordial bard. The Finnish mythology is full of singing battles, and it's so epic. So, yeah, that's who I'd want to talk with. But what I would ask him, man, that's a hard question. um, I think the question is, would you teach me?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, as we are wrapping up here, if people you mentioned some venues and you have some things on, what do you and what you have coming up?
So my website is bardicartsrevival.com, BARDIC, artsrevival.com. And then on Instagram, that's a great place to find me. I keep things pretty updated there. And it's Bardic Arts Revival Official. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. So those are really great ways to stay in touch. In my website, there's also a contact form. So if you're interested in booking me for a show or just want to talk, I love to hear from people and talk about this work. I think it's really important. Like I said, it's a spiritual calling for me, so I really welcome conversations about it. So either way, I'd love to hear from you. So
very good. Well, the bard, storyteller, musician, so many different things that you shared with us just today, and we're looking forward to seeing where you go and having you come back to share with us what's going on in your life. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and thank you for what you are doing to bring these stories to life and to share it with so many people.
Thank you too, Steve. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Cool conversation, right? I mean, I think just seeing some of the comments, tremendous amount of just awe and respect for what the bard shared with us, what they're doing. And I could tell that there was a lot there where people are looking forward to the follow-up. Also, it looked like somewhere toward the end there, we had a little bit of a glitch in the stream. So hopefully that didn't interfere with anybody too severely. Let me know if that was a problem for you, if it dropped your connection, so that we know just for follow-up on that and can check into it. Anyway, thank you to the bard. Thank you, Casey, for taking the time to join us, to be here. And I am looking forward. We have not yet recorded the follow-up. I know that they are in Finland right now, as was mentioned in the comments. And we will be working on getting that arranged. But I do want to share with you what is coming up on Coffee Breaks in the next few weeks, as we do have some things scheduled, planned, working on, either have already put together or putting together right now. Next week, we're going to have a lady by the name of Melissa Muir on, who is an event planner, puts together all kinds of events, from weddings to giant corporate events in all kinds of venues, all kinds of locations around the country, and even in some places outside the country. We're going to hear what it takes to put something like that together. We all who have attended any kind of an event, we all know that we show up and it's just supposed to work. And if the background work has been done correctly, we don't even know that somebody worked on it. It's when something doesn't quite go right that we go, where's that event planner? But Melissa's going to tell us about the backstories behind it, but what makes an event great and how she got into this. It's a cool story, and you'll want to be here for that. And then, as some of you know, here a few weeks ago, we were actually in a situation in our home where we got an evacuation notice. There was a wildfire less than a mile away, as the crow flies or as the fire spreads. And we didn't get a lot of warning. We immediately got an evacuation notice, and we were away from our house for a couple of days. Fortunately, our direct neighborhood in our home were never in immediate danger, but there were a number of homes damaged. There was actually even loss of life. And as we were okay prepared to get out, we got out quickly, safely, without panicking. But as we came back from that, Carol and I discussed the fact that maybe we weren't quite as prepared as we might have been if we'd really thought this through. And so we're going to be having an episode here in the next couple of weeks on being prepared, not panicked. And our guest is going to be Chandra Fox, who is the Deputy Director of Emergency Management for Spokane County, an expert in this area, who's going to talk through and help us really discover what should we do to shelter in place. Once again, I'm seeing some glitchiness in the video feed here, so hang with us. And we're going to talk about those situations. And then going out, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were supposed to be doing an episode with Mermaid Sandy, Making Waves. And that show got, in a very good way, hijacked because my family was throwing me a surprise belated birthday party. And that became the live stream, was my being spirited away toward that party. We did not have the opportunity to share the conversation with Mermaid Sandy. So we've got that one coming up on August 1st so that we finally get to hear from her. And it's a great story. You'll want to be here for that one too. What are the topics you'd like to discuss? Who are the guests you'd like to see? You can email us at cbwsteve@comcast.net to share your ideas. We love to have them. And we have little prizes, little rewards if your idea, your guest, does end up being something that we're able to put together for the show. A reminder that we do have a YouTube channel. Some of you are tuned in there today or going back later to watch. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to that. Watch and like our videos. That will help us get that out visible to more people who may want to hear from the Bard, who may be inspired by people like the Bard. If you are already a subscriber, share the YouTube channel with others in your community so that we can spread the word and get those out there. I'm not looking to become famous, but I think our guests and our stories and our topics are worth sharing with a much larger audience. So you can do your part to help get that out there. The last tip, I just want to tell you, each month, Coffee Breaks with Steve is highlighting and actually promoting a nonprofit organization that we see is making an impact. And we've had a couple over the last couple of months. This month, we want to bring attention to what I call the little engine that could. It's a smaller Humane Society organization in California, Valley Humane Society. We've had the executive director from Valley Humane Society on the show before. You may remember meeting Melanie Sadek, who is the executive director, and what they have put together, what they are doing as an example of what well-constructed, well-managed and organized animal welfare programs are doing is inspirational. And so I really want to encourage you to consider, maybe you want to look for a different one in your area, that's great. But take the time to go out to Valley Humane Society's website. That's www.valleyhumane.org. They are a worthwhile organization, and I highly recommend and commend them for the work that they are doing. Again, a little engine that could. Their history was one of struggling to get where they're at, but they are very, very capable, and a lot credit goes to Melanie and her staff and their board. But take the time to check out what they're doing. In the next few weeks, we'll be sharing a little bit more about them, and even sharing a little bit about the story that we captured before when Melanie was a guest on this show. All right, listen, we are at the end of our time. I once again want to say thank you to the Bard for being here, and just want to wish you continued success, Casey, in Finland, as you continue to learn, as you continue to engage, as you continue to find out more about Finnish culture and the myths and the history of that lovely place. Thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to your next time with us. Thank you to all of you. And remember, whether it is someplace like Valley Humane Society, whether it is reaching out through the talents that you have been given, whether it's the type of creativity that the Bard shows or something else, we all have things that we can do. We all have passions. We all have a voice. We all have hands and feet that can move to do things. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.